Hi, this is Rick Harsh, reader, writer, and chief editor of Corona Samizdat Books. Recently, someone asked me where to start with Antonio Lobo Antunes. Now I can't remember if he had actually read something or not. Maybe he had read, um, and this is sad because I can't actually tell you what the name of it is because I only know two of the three titles. It's had two titles in English. The first one is this one, which I love. I love this book. I think it's the best tavern confession novel ever written. Puts The Fall by Camus to shame. It's an extraordinary work. But the because people in the most powerful countries in the world who speak English are very delicate. I find it really very funny that they cannot. You still can't say shit on television. I probably say that too often, but it always amazes me when shit is beeped. But even fuck, fuck you, um, you know, fuck you. Leave my shit in there and my. Oh, by the way, this is my bathroom, and the reason we're in here is because this is where all my Antunes books are. There's a shelf right here, and I don't want to risk fucking up the video, so I'm not gonna do this. You know. Um, okay, let's hope that worked. So, point being that this is where the Antunes books are, so I thought I'd come in here and sit down and um, among other things, talk about Antunes. What the other things are, none of your business. But use your imagination and try to come up with something interesting. Look at that. Allah. Allah. Is that a secret message from Al Qaeda? No, it's Antonio Lobo Antunes. Okay, so this book is called Os Cus de Judas. Judas. Joao is how you say Joao. And anyway, the Brazilian J is a fun one. Yeah. So Antonio Lobo Antunes wrote a book that he called The Ass of Judas, which is a saying in Portugal that more or less suggests the same thing as south of nowhere. Um, could be west of nowhere, I suppose. I mean, the ass of Judas is better. But anyway, the delicate English decision makers said, "Oh, we can't have ass of Judas on there," you know. It's only that the author wanted it. That's the only reason to do it. And why the fuck should they do what the author wants? Anyway, so I think the person read the latest translation of this, which has some other name, and I don't know if it's good or bad. And this is good enough, And if you don't know that it should have been Ass of Judas, what do you care? And even when when you start reading the book, you just don't care because it's so well written. I was going to read something out of it to you just because I actually made this yesterday and then my phone stopped me. Um, uh, oh, here's a nice one. This is Representative Antunes. It's only a clause. I'll see if I can, and probably because the sentence is too long, but on a page in which he mentions Nicholas Ray, uh, whatever else, Matisse paintings, Lisbon afternoons, which, like the dust of Africa, penetrates the crevices, the closed windows, the spaces that separate shirt buttons from each other, the porous wall of the eyelids and the silence, and perhaps the unexpected beauty of a young woman walking past us without noticing us. Here's the part. in a restaurant where the fish head stares up at us with the expression of an imploring orgasm. Is that not extraordinary? An imploring orgasm. The fish head staring up with the expression of an imploring orgasm. Antunes is a brilliant, brilliant writer. The person asked me what else, like what further I would read, and actually, I've read Knowledge of Hell, Explanation of the Birds, two of which I would recommend, but Fado Alexandrino, which is not here because I must have given it away. I read it many times. I read it twice in succession. It reminds me of when I first came across the full version of the film, The Seven Samurai. I watched it 2 days in a row. It was available for 2 days in the city I was in, and I read a review, and I went to it, and I thought, good God, this is extraordinary. And then I went the next day, and it was the same with South of Nowhere. Also, another book that happened to me was Minuet Zagataro by the Slovene writer Vitomil Zupan. So love to find that book again. I don't know if it's out of print. I tried to get in touch with the translator, but I got nothing so far. But I'm in Slovenia, and the book's Slovene, so someone will help me with that. I'll get it, or at least tell people where they can get it. Antunes is fortunately a Grove Press author for a while. Looks like, this style of cover. I'll give you another example here. Fado Alexandrino is in this batch. This is the style of the Grove Press Antunes, and I also have another one called The Splendor of Portuguese, which is titled almost literally, literally as it should be. So I guess it didn't upset anybody, the word splendor. I mean, what if it was the splendor of my ass? I guess they'd have to change it, wouldn't they? Well, by the way, The Splendor of My Ass is going to be my autobiography. And not an autobiographical novel, my autobiography, the official one. I'm giving myself permission. I'm never going to do that, actually. People do ask me sometimes, why don't you write an autobiography? Wouldn't that be interesting? Well, I'll tell you, the reason, I'm not saying, I shouldn't mock people who come up with suggestions and express interest, but the thing is, I've been alive and present the whole time I've been alive and present. And so I'm not really interested in what happened. When I read a biography, like, one of the greatest known biographies is the biography of Joyce by the mother of Newberry Duck, or the father of Newberry Ducks. What's it? Ellman. Yeah, Ellman's biography of Joyce is extraordinary. And the great thing is I wasn't at any event in Joyce's life, so it was all new to me. And so it was interesting. But I read one of Rimbaud recently. I wish I could remember the author, because it was one of the best literary biographies I've ever read. It was really, really good. And in its way, in the stylistically, it was better than Ellman. Ellman is just he's encyclopedic, or was. But anyway, so The Splendor of Portugal, and you have Act of the Damned, and down here we've got Knowledge of Hell, Dalkey Archive, just like this one is Dalkey Archive. I don't know what happened with him. I guess he didn't sell enough for Grove. But Knowledge of Hell is Dalkey Archive. Explanation of the Birds is down there. So I can't show you everything because I'd have to dig them out from a stack. But the thing is, I would read Fado Alexandrino next if I've only read one of his. There's another one. I forget because my brain is sometimes Os Cus de Judas. But yesterday I thought, well, the reason we have books in the bathroom, and this is the Grove Press edition of the Inquisitor's Manual, and this is probably the next one that I should read. I don't know what interfered with my Antunes binge, but because I was loving every page, and I did read one whole book in here. That was Knowledge of Hell, and what better place to do that than in your bathroom, sitting on your throne? And so the Inquisitor's Manual, I was reading it yesterday in a short stint in here, and I remembered um, much of it. And I don't know when I was reading it, but he has that quality. Are you a moron, young man, or are you just pretending? That's in parentheses. He glides from scene to scene. There are no full stops. I don't know about the whole book, but no, looks like he goes a whole book without full stops, and but it's one of those books that teaches you how to read it. It presents itself, and you are interested enough because of the language and the activities that this is yet again a book about. Let's see what they say on the back. Hmm, this isn't the one I thought it was, but he writes about the disintegration of late Salazar, post Salazar, post colonial Portugal. There's no better novel of the degradations of colonialism. Let's leave it at that. Colonialism than Antunes. So this one may be, if it's as good as it appears to be. I think there are two Antunes books. There are the bigger ones. Splendor of Portugal looks like a pretty big one. This is pretty big, but what is pretty big these days? These are thicker pages. Okay, it's actually only 431 pages, but there's the Return of the Caravels, which is relatively short for Antunes. Of course, de Judas is it's a tavern confession novel, so it has to be short, between 50 and 200 pages. I think is 200 would be pretty long for that, but this one is 200 and a few pages. Act of the Damned is only 246 pages. So they're to recommend Antunes, I would say for the big ones, read Fado Alexandrino first. Absolutely. For the smaller ones, Explanation of the Birds is fantastic, and so is Knowledge of Hell. And so those are my recommendations. Oh, here's one that's I think kind of in between. This one it's called The Natural Order of Things, and there's some really let's see let's see, a novel of the Los Angeles Times book review called A Work of Poetic and Erotic Genius from a Master Navigator of the Human Psyche. The Natural Order of Things is a tale of two families and the secrets that bind them. The voices of his characters: an army officer being tortured in prison on charges of conspiracy, an elderly man, once a miner in Mozambique, now reduced to dreams of flying underground, a diabetic teenage girl, and the middle-aged husband she despises, the officer's illegitimate sister, locked in the attic like Bertha Rochester and Jane Eyre, create a portrait of a disintegrating Portugal that attains the brilliance and surreality of Elias Canetti and Nikolai Gogol. What's there is he creates a portrait of a disintegrating Portugal. That's what he does, and again and again. Although I've never, while reading, thought, that's um, repetitive. Where he is repetitive, it's sublime. But here's something, another of his descriptions. I'll leave you with this. And now, my friend, it wasn't only her blouse, but her skirt that threatened to come undone, unable to contain the abundance of her hips and the gullied bulge of her pubis. The gullied bulge of her pubis. And I imagine Lucilia's legs with their star-spangled stockings devouring the tobacco shop in Katzem. I imagined my brother retreating in panic to the back of the shop, sticking his hands out like shields, begging, no, no, no. That's, he comes up with these astonishing phrases. And never so intensively as in Fado Alexandrino, which is what I recommend. A delicate goodbye.